Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another outdoors edition of Wade Watches, another spontaneous outdoors edition of Wade Watches. I'm Wade, and today I'm going to be reviewing a film that I actually did shoot a review for, my usual fresh out of the theater format, but I was very low energy in the video because I saw this film late at night after a 10-hour work day, and I wasn't satisfied with how I came off in that video, kind of just somebody who needed to rest, but thankfully I still, remember, pretty much remember very, vividly and very thoroughly my overall thoughts on the film. So we're all good. So with that out of the way, today I'm going to be doing a very quick review for The Amateur. This is the latest action film that stars Rami Malek and Lawrence Fishburne, or I shouldn't say action film, more like espionage, kind of like hacker thriller sort of film, because it's kind of light on the action, but that's the point. We'll get into that later. And going into that, what I just said, that it's light on the action and more, it's more about espionage and brains over brawn. Going into The Amateur, that's what I was honestly looking forward to the most. I wasn't looking for, I guess, kind of like just a straight up Jason Bourne retread, starring I imagine definitely more buffed up Rami Malek, who has to who would, I guess, ideally have to physically train to get in Jason Bourne shape, where I wasn't wanting that film where it's somebody who starts out, kind of I guess, someone you would call kind of non-confrontational, kind of more on the more on the soft non-confrontational side, but they buff up, they become ruthless and aggressive. That's not what I was looking for, going into a film like The Amateur. And in fact, it sold you on the opposite. No, Rami Malek doesn't have a Rocky training montage where he puts on 50 pounds of muscle so he can go avenge his wife's killers, and that's not a spoiler, that's in the trailer. He uses what he has best, which is his brain. I was very much looking forward to that, and when the film delivered on that, it was everything I wanted it to be. It really was neat to see somebody use his intellect to even the score with the guys who killed his wife, and a very ruthless way. And in turn, Rami Malek himself really does a good job with this role. He really sells you on the fact that firstly, he's hurting after the loss of his wife, and secondly, as someone who is all brains over brawn, someone who is very intellectual and crafty, who has a high IQ and has kind of an affinity for puzzles. Really good performance by Rami Malek. And also the second headliner of the film, though he's not in it for long, Lawrence Fishburne, in the few scenes that he's in, because trust me guys, he's not in this movie for long. He's in I counted maybe 3 scenes, maybe 4 total, but in all the scenes he's in, I like his banter with Rami and Malek. I like the chemistry between them. I like even kind of that kind of understanding that the two of them come to, where Rami Malek's maybe killing and being this ruthless CIA assassin isn't for me, even though that's what I wanted initially, so I could track down my wife's killers and just straight up murder them. And Lawrence Fishburne comes to the understanding yeah, hey, you're just not naturally a killer, but I still respect you for who you are and the skills you do have, or at least I'll respect you when I start seeing that for myself. So I like that dynamic, and I wish we really would have seen more of it. So all of that was good, but where The Amateur unfortunately fell short for me was just going, sticking to that safe path. I bought up Jason Bourne, and that's pretty much what this is. There's somebody who's out for revenge, and the organization that he's a part of is in turn hunting him and trying to stop him from executing his unauthorized vengeance. And you have a couple of scenes. You don't ever have that scene where it's a bunch of people in the room, here he is, but you do have that in there, so it's very Jason Bourne-esque. And that's ultimately what what kind of brought this down for me, and that's to the film's detriment, because it sticks to that typical espionage spy thriller path too safely, to the point where the stakes ultimately felt watered down. Everything felt watered down and unsurprising, and when this whole thing wrapped up, I was just kind of okay, well, that's it. It was cool when you were doing your thing, but I'm not really feeling the tension here or the intensity. I really do think that this would have been something that honestly would have probably worked better as another series, so we could have seen more things fleshed out. We could have seen how this guy's mind really works, It could have almost been like another Sherlock, where this guy, we're dealing with a guy who just sees the world so differently because he's just like so intelligent. Because again, the thing I liked about The Amateur when I was enjoying it was watching Rami Malek do his thing. He really sold me on being this high IQ, CIA genius, and I wish we could have seen like more of that and maybe fleshed that out more, maybe gotten more development. It could have really worked as like a mini series on the countless streaming platforms. Just this new show starring Rami Malek and Lawrence Fishburne. People will watch it. I mean, I haven't seen the show, but I know Rami Malek gained a lot of popularity from his time on Mr. Robot. This could have been, kind of like an unofficial follow-up to that show, But as a film, it also could have worked as a film, but they just choose to not really do anything that you haven't seen before with it, despite those moments where it really did seem like they were trying to, stray off that beaten path with watching Rami Malek work. Ultimately, it's just that generic spy thriller with little to no stakes, despite, Rami Malek piecing together this puzzle, making you think like, okay, this is going to be intense, this is going to be gritty. Not really. So wrapping it up, I'm going to give The Amateur a 6 out of 10 because apart from the two, central performances in this thing, nothing really of note stood out to me here. It was nice watching those two guys work. It was nice seeing Rami Malek do his thing and watching him and Lawrence Fishburne bounce off of each other. But outside of that, it's a by the numbers spy thriller, but it has its moments. So 6 out of 10 for The Amateur. This has been another impromptu outdoors edition of Wave Watches, and I'll see you lovely people next time. Peace.